How to narrow rear end part 2. In part 1 you guys saw us chop the rear end down, chop the axle shaft down, weld the axle shaft back together. Well, in today's video, narrowing the rear end part 2, we're going to be welding the axle tubes back together.
So our bearing actually sandwiches between the axle and the axle tube itself, so we had to bolt her back together.
So you guys saw us get that axle shaft fully assembled so we can get it installed into the differential while we weld it together, just to make sure it's nice and straight. We'll also be using 2 pieces of angle iron and a hose clamp to make sure this guy is perfectly straight on the axle tube itself. We got this side all tacked together and she is going absolutely nowhere. She's nice and straight. We lined up our white lines, we tack welded together, got our hose clamps tight. You can see how it's butted up to the edge right there nicely. So we're going to show you guys the process over here on the left side of the axle tube. We've already beveled the edges due to this axle housing being about 3/8 of an inch thick.
So to cut out those pieces of angle, we're going to use our chop saw, measured precisely and pushed all the way against the axle housing and tightened up. Then we're going to tack weld it in place so that actual outer piece of the axle doesn't move at all when we fully weld it in. And then we're just going to get at it and just start blasting it in with our brand new MIG 250 Pro from WELDER. This welder is an awesome little unit. It definitely puts out the amps. It penetrated this 3/8 inch thick metal like it was butter. This little machine is also a multi-process machine. You can lift TIG, you can arc weld, and it is just putting down the amps on our axle tube. So if you guys want to go check out this WELDER, the link will be down in the description below. So we ended up grinding down our welds because our purchase have to sit right there. It needs to be nice and flush.
So we got the axle tube fully welded together. We also ground down the axle tube. We did run out of argon CO2 mix while we were welding, so we had to switch over to straight argon, which does not make the prettiest welds, but we will get that tank refilled and we're going to do a full review on this WELDER MIG 250 Pro. If you guys want to check out this WELDER, it'll be down in the description below, but it welded this axle tube nice and hot. We have no issues with penetration at all. As you guys can see, there's no porosity in the weld or anything like that. I just wasn't pleased with the look of it, and that was because we ran out of CO2 argon mix and we had to go to straight argon. So we'll do a full review when we fill up this CO2 tank and get this guy welding good. We still gotta weld up this frame, so I think that'll be a perfect time to do that review. But look how just cute this tiny little rear end is. It is absolutely tiny. It came together perfectly though. I'm very happy with it. So this is probably the smallest rear end you'll ever see at a flange to flange length of 34.5 inches. That is insanely tiny. So it is perfectly centered. We found a U-joint for the back of our transmission. So in the next video, we'll be mounting this rear end in the back of our V8 swapped lawnmower and getting our frame fully welded together. But I am pumped about this tiny little rear end. I hope you guys are too. We got a 373 gear ratio in this thing, and she should be able to pop wheelies. So guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to comment down below. But other than that, thank you guys for watching. As always, keep it boosted, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace!